So all three of the US markets today have really just began or continued to tread water. They're moving sideways. We had a nice little inside day on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, a relatively flat trading session. The same is true on the S&P 500, an inside day hangman type of candle, not reading too much into that daily sentiment of that candle. The overwhelming majority and the trend continues to remain up. The Nasdaq is the exception to the rule, as at today's trading session it's poked its head up above Friday's highs, closed with somewhat of a similar candlestick, except that the body of this candle is white. That just means that the close was above the open of today's trading session. A relatively flat trading session, just to recap, but we did see some interesting moves in a couple of stocks which we follow. Most noticeably was Apple today. Now, whether you're in the pro analysis class or not, you should have potentially taken profit off the table at 129.90. I did not see a $3 move plus above this stop or this target area. We had an additional entry at 131.29. I myself have missed this trade. I didn't expect Apple to gap up and run. It's just continuing in its bullish trend. It is unsustainable, but if you did get in at 131.29, congratulations on that trade. It's very profitable at the moment. I'd place my stop essentially where my first target was on this trade breakout at 120.96. I'd adjust my stop to the low of Monday's candle and just see what continues for the week ahead in regards to Apple. A very nice trade to the upside. Looking at some additional stocks, Amazon today had a very nice inside day candle. This is what I wanted to see on this particular stock. You can see that we've rallied into resistance 2 times in the past 2 weeks, and this is exactly what we want to see. We're seeing a little bit of selling pressure at this resistance level. Still very comfortable in that long trade which I gave you over the weekend in that pro analysis class. Baba today tanking a little bit, down about $1.30. We're still running into the IPO lows. We've got very, very strong support levels around $85 all the way down to these 2 particular wicks going back to, let me just bring this into perspective for you. Going back into October, we've got these 2 little candlesticks which took place on the 14th and also on the 15th of October, which we need to break down below until we start shorting Baba. Until then, I'm still pretty neutral on this stock. It seems as if we're making a base, and there's a very good probability that we are going to reverse the current downtrend at this level. So pay attention to Baba over the coming days. Baidu today had a nice engulfing candlestick pattern. It hasn't triggered off a trade necessarily. It's still looking pretty mixed at the moment. Caterpillar again is just dancing in between support and resistance, going sideways. No real trade update on that particular stock. FAS, another stock which had a nice little inside day. We're still making our way up to our target here at $127.65. I do believe we are going to hit it. It's only a matter of time. So sit tight on that FAS trade, and of course the trade looking forward further into the week. Facebook today had a little bit of a pullback. It's come back down and it's retested our original entry around $78.83. We still have a target up here at $81.39. Just sit tight on this particular trade. If the market continues to break out, again, the Nasdaq has moved a long way, or at least moved sideways. Facebook should show relative strength and continue in its current direction. Google today had a pullback, so most of the stocks at least were mixed to flat. Google was one of those exceptions which had a continued pullback. It may come down and retest this 529 area. My perspective on this stock hasn't changed. I'm just waiting for it to take out some of those most recent higher highs, those swing highs which we've been paying attention to. GoPro today had a nice little doji candlestick. You can see right here. I'll zoom in and show you this. It's still relatively flat. I mean, we had this surge in volatility on the lockup. The next day it was rejected. Since then, we've had a spinning top followed by 2 dojis. This stock doesn't know what it wants to do. It doesn't know who it is. It's a little bit lost at the moment. So I wouldn't get overly aggressive in looking at a strong swing trade on GoPro. Let's just give it a little bit more time. The same is true with Halliburton at the moment. It's still just moving sideways, bouncing off this old open resistance box right here. This is the gap resistance, and we're still struggling to try and push above it. Sit tight on this. We may have to pay attention to a Bollinger Band squeeze which may present itself. At the moment though, no real trade on that Halliburton trade at the moment, or that Halliburton stock at the moment. Netflix today could have stopped you out for a nice little profit here. It was about a $7 profit on this trade. We came very close to hitting our target at 484. I still think it is going to hit this 484 trigger this week, or this target, and I'm looking for the breakout to take place above the all-time highs on Netflix. It may not happen this week, but there's a very strong likelihood that it will happen either next week or the following week if these markets continue to trend. There's only going to be a continued pressure of buying pressure across all of these stocks if the markets continue to trend higher, which is what I expect. Tesla is somewhat of an exception to the rule. I spoke and really referenced this downward type of trend and my reluctance to give you a trade on this type of move right here. You can see why. We ran up, we hit into this resistance, or this horizontal resistance level, also this declining trend line. And as at today's candle, you can see a very nice one black crow candlestick reversal pattern on increasing volume. So a lot of traders are paying attention to this downward trend line. It's not enough to go short at the moment for a very high probability swing trade. You know the ranges which I'm paying attention to, they haven't changed as such over the weekend. And the final stock to recap at the moment is Twitter. We've been looking at this to break this candle high over here. Today we saw a little bit of a pullback. We did get a shooting star on Friday, but I do believe Twitter is going to continue in the upward direction. Just keep your stop around 47.30. On this particular trade, still looking at highs up around $53 a share on Twitter moving forward. So that's a pretty decent Monday afternoon market recap. Again, markets are just treading water at these higher highs. As long as we can consolidate and hold these higher levels, then there's a really good chance that these markets are going to continue to make higher highs and higher lows and really set up a nice trending environment for us as we transition into March 2015. So sit tight. A lot of trades are still coming to us. And just to recap some additional stocks which I mentioned over the weekend, Visa is one of those trades which is really on the precipice of breaking out. You can see a very nice type of candlestick right here, a long lower wick indicating buying pressure right at this resistance level. Still paying attention to that 274.04 entry to enter into a bunch of core contracts. There's a couple of other stocks which I'm also keeping a close eye on. LinkedIn is one of those additional stocks where we've had the gap up, nice little spinning top candle, and really for the past 2 or 3 weeks we've just held inside this area. The longer we hold in this area and we let the exponentials catch up, the stronger the probability that we're going to break out and break above this 276.69 entry for a nice little continuation to the upside. So they're just a couple of other stocks which I'm personally paying attention to for this trading week. One other stock which I have with a lot of private people is the DD stock. This is broken out today. We had an entry here at 77.05. It's looking quite nice. A nice little 71-cent move. Again, a lot of stocks are starting to break their all-time highs or at least multi-year highs and are really setting up nice trending types of movements. Some decent volume coming into DD also. So a pretty decent trade for the time being as at the close on Monday afternoon. If you have any questions whatsoever, email me success@pivotpoint-trading.com. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, have a great Monday evening, and I'll see you all for another recap as at the close of business on Tuesday. Goodbye.